coming up on BCN today. It's a skier's delight. Thanks to over 50 centimeters of snow, Castle Mountain will open early this year. Plus, we tell you how the city is keeping up with the demand of all this snow. And a plane crash in Kingston, Ontario kills 7.
Your Canada. Your Southern Alberta. Your stories. From our studios in the heart of Lethbridge, it's BCN Today with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Friday. The winter storm warning from Environment Canada has been lifted, but it's bitterly cold and there's a frostbite warning. The Coots border crossing has been reopened, although highway travel heading south is not advised. Lethbridge received over 40 centimeters of snow, and drifting has been a huge problem, especially on the west side of town. City crews have been hard at work to ensure it's cleared for drivers and pedestrians. BCN's Loris Alexander found out how the city is coping with all the white stuff.
Snow, ice, and teeth chattering cold. City officials say they're ready and all hands on deck.
We've had about 25 to 30 centimeters blowing snow. It's affected different areas of the city differently, but the crews have been out that entire time working the Priority 1 routes, making sure that the vast majority of the citizens can get to and from where they need to go.
City staff also say that the toughest part is what they call the priority system.
The challenge with this kind of snow that lasts for a few days is we have a priority system and we work on that priority system, and we'll finish Priority 1 after it quits snowing, and then we move on to Priority 2. So we haven't even started Priority 2 until it stops snowing, we finish Priority 1, and then we'll move into the parks and pathways and start to work on them.
And lastly, words of advice for safe winter driving.
Our crews are trying to keep up with the snow removal and the sanding. Give yourself some more time, look ahead, try to be as prepared as you can for that vehicle ahead of you that's stopping. It's going to take you a longer time to stop. Slow your speeds down. That's going to give you the ability to stop if you need to. And just be a professional driver. Be aware of what your surroundings are. Stay off your phone. Absolutely. There's no place for us to be looking at our phones and being distracted in weather like this. And yeah, just please slow down.
For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
According to the Sports Network, Bill Peters is no longer the head coach of the Calgary Flames. The news came in this morning in the wake of revelations that he used racial slurs a decade ago while coaching in the American Hockey League. General Manager Brad Treliving is currently holding a news conference. We will update you on this information during our 5 o'clock newscast with Hal Roberts. British police are reporting that several people were wounded in a stabbing incident on London Bridge. Witnesses say they heard gunshots. London's Metropolitan Police say they have shot and killed the suspect and are treating the incident as if it were terror-related. RCMP believed a burned-out pickup truck found in Pemberton, British Columbia belongs to a Calgary man who's been missing for a week and a half. The Calgary Police Service says 26-year-old Marshall Iwasa was last seen by his family in Lethbridge on November 17th. He was supposed to return to Calgary that day, but hasn't been heard from since. RCMP in Pemberton found the burned-out vehicle on Monday and notified Iwasa's family. Iwasa is 5 feet 11 inches tall, approximately 170 pounds, with brown eyes, shoulder-length brown hair that usually is worn in tied back in a ponytail, and he has a mustache. He was last seen wearing a green hoodie, a gray toque, a red high-top shoes, and black pants. Anyone with information about Iwasa's disappearance is asked to contact Pemberton RCMP or the Calgary Police Service right away. Vehicle theft in the city of Lethbridge is going down, and that's according to a recent report released by the Lethbridge Police Service. The study also says that 92% of vehicles stolen this year and last were recovered. That is up from a recovery rate of 89% in 2017. Police say the majority of vehicles that were stolen were running with the doors unlocked.
Lock your car up. If you need to leave it running, it doesn't need to be running for 20 minutes, half hour. and just be aware that a command start, something that has a safety feature built in that your vehicle cannot be removed while it's running, would be advised.
They say the vehicle thefts were not directly related to the increase in drug crime in our city, but were more from people just looking to go for a joyride. As of Sunday, the government is putting a freeze on municipalities buying new photo radar devices. It will seek out standardized information on whether the technology actually saves lives.
If I can use the example of our intersection safety device at 5 Avenue South, that was selected based on collision statistics, and the overwhelming drop in those collisions at that location, I can't argue those stats. So we welcome the audit that the province is going to do. We participated in the original audit a couple of years ago. We're fully compliant with the guidelines, and there weren't any big discrepancies between the new guidelines and how we were operating. So it was kind of normal business for us. Yeah, people don't like getting tickets. I think that's whether it's hand delivered by a police officer or whether it's mailed, but everybody has an opinion on it.
The government will work with 27 Alberta municipalities that use photo radar along with police forces to collect information. The freeze means cities cannot install photo radar in new locations. With all of the recent snow we've received, Castle Mountain is opening early, which is great news for skiers. They received at least 50 centimeters of snowfall this week. A preview weekend will be held tomorrow and Sunday, with the official grand opening taking place on Saturday, December 7th. That's about 2 weeks ahead of previous years and the earliest opening in more than a decade. Castle Mountain officials say they will also have $2 million in upgrades, including new state-of-the-art snowmaking machines. The new equipment will allow Castle Mountain to open earlier and stay open later in the season. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer is going to give a speech in Calgary that will be his first major appearance before supporters since election night. The speech to the United Conservative Party convention will come at the end of a bruising week of challenges to his leadership from across the Conservative spectrum. The federal Tories swept almost every seat in Alberta, but while their vote totals in the province hit record highs, it's also the home of some of the most abject frustration that Scheer failed to win a majority when faced with what many believed should have been an easy win. Scheer, meanwhile, says despite the contention over his future as leader, he will remain at the helm. Scheer also appointed a former Liberal as his number 2. Toronto area MP Leona Elizaleth was named as deputy leader of the Tories. She replaces Lisa Raitt.
Leona was a former Liberal member of Parliament who came to our side in the last Parliament because she believed in my vision and the Conservative vision for Canada. She represents a diverse GTA riding, and I will depend on her to help hold the government to account while I'm on the road and to help expand our party in Ontario. In addition to Leona's role as deputy leader, I am pleased to announce the following members of my House leadership team: Alain Reyes, député pour Richmond-Athabasca, comme lieutenant du Québec. Mark Strahl, the MP for Chilliwack Hope, will serve as the chief opposition whip. John Brassard, the MP for Barrie Innisfil, will serve as the deputy chief opposition whip. Candice Bergen, MP for Portage Lisgar, will continue to serve as the House leader of the official opposition. John Nader, the MP for Perth Wellington, will serve as the deputy House leader of the official opposition.
The province announced it will be boosting funding to school nutrition programs to the tune of $3 million. The extra funding will enable nonprofits to partner with schools on piloting ways to reduce operating costs while ensuring students receive quality meals. The additional $3 million will bring the total for the school nutrition program to $15.5 million. In a release, the UCP says around 35,000 students receive a meal through this program. And speaking of food, households are the second largest contributors of food waste, with 21% occurring in the home. That's according to Kathleen Shepard, who is the executive director of Environment Lethbridge. SACPA presented a session Thursday discussing food waste and the issues associated with food that never makes it to the table.
There's been some research done over the past year in particular looking at food waste across Canada, and basically what it comes down to is per person about $1,700 worth of food is wasted every year. So that's a significant amount, and what we see is that this is a big problem, not just because we have people obviously who need food in communities across Canada, but also for the environmental impacts. Food waste actually has a really large carbon footprint. When it goes into the landfill, it releases methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. And so the more we can do to reduce food waste, the better off we are from an environmental perspective.
Restaurants face no potential liability for the food they donate, as food donors are protected under the Good Samaritan law, Shepherd says. Yet many are unaware of the laws protecting donations. Both Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland are set to meet this morning with Mexico's point man on the new North American Free Trade Agreement. So far, Mexico is the only country to ratify the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. Democrats in the U.S. Congress are pushing for Mexico to enact stricter enforcement measures for its labor and environmental standards, and Canada may be able to help with that issue. A plane crash outside of Kingston, Ontario yesterday morning killed 7 people. The Transportation Safety Board, Ken Webster, who is in charge of the investigation, he has updated media on what they've discovered so far. The TSB believes its final destination was Quebec City and that it was intending to land in Kingston when it crashed.
An American registered PA-32, commonly known as the Cherokee 6, departed Toronto Buttonville Airport on a visual flight rules flight. Preliminary information indicates the destination was Quebec City. There were 7 people on board the aircraft. It appears that the aircraft intended to land in Kingston, as there were communications with the Kingston Flight Service Station just prior to the accident. Shortly after 5 p.m., the aircraft collided with terrain approximately 2.8 nautical miles north of Kingston on the center line for the north-south runway. Unfortunately, all 7 people were fatally injured. The aircraft was destroyed and came to rest in a northerly direction. Examination of the wreckage, indicates that the angle of impact was very steep.
A judge is to hand down a verdict today in the trial of a woman accused in the death of a toddler found outside an Edmonton church. Anthony Joseph Rain was 19 months old when he died in 2017. Tasha Lee Doreen Mack and the child's father, Joey Cryer, are each charged with second-degree murder. Mack is to be in court this afternoon to hear the verdict. Cryer's trial, which was held separately, is to hear final arguments next week. The Edmonton Eskimos have fired their head coach, Jason Moss. GM Brock Sunderland made the announcement late yesterday. Sunderland said the team was underachieving and it was time for a change.
Ultimately, I felt the past 2 seasons we underachieved as a team, and that was the final decision and where that came from. Jason and I had a long conversation at the end of the 2018 season and discussed what we felt moving forward was going to be best for the organization to get to the ultimate goal, which is the Grey Cup. We had a good discussion, and I like Jason. I have immense respect for him professionally, and unfortunately these past 2 seasons we just didn't get to where I thought we should get.
The Eskimos finished this season with an 8-10 record and lost in the Eastern Final to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, 36-16. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation has announced it will hold a 1-day strike if it can't reach a collective agreement with the province by December 4th. Union President Harvey Bishop says it's a necessary measure to turn up the pressure during tense labor negotiations with the provincial government.
It's not that the government came to the table to try to bargain strips. They unilaterally imposed those strips before bargaining even got going. They stripped class sizes, they stripped support staff out of the system, they've stripped students access to the assistance they need to be successful. The erosion of education is happening now, and we can't wait any longer for this to continue.
In international news, anti-government protesters cheered in Baghdad's Tahrir Square following word that Iraq's prime minister is going to submit his resignation to parliament. Yesterday, more than 40 people were killed by security forces because they were calling for the removal of the entire political class that has ruled Iraq since the 2003 downfall of Saddam Hussein. Adel Abdul Mahdi was appointed prime minister just over a year ago as a consensus candidate between political blocs. Well, the winter storm warning has lifted, leaving us with bitterly cold temperatures. A complete look at the weather picture is coming up after the break. Welcome back. Here's a look at our weather highlights for Lethbridge. The winter storm warning has been lifted by Environment Canada, but it has left us with bitterly cold temperatures. -12 is the high today, going down to -18 overnight. A high of -7 tomorrow is expected. We are still expecting some flurries today, but that should taper off later on this afternoon into this evening. And then looking ahead to the 5-day forecast, we're going to finally see some sunshine back in the picture there with plus temperatures again. Sunday's high is expected to be 2 degrees, 3 degrees on Monday, up to 5 on Tuesday, rising to 6 degrees on Wednesday, and then increasing all the way to 9 degrees for next Thursday, and mainly sunny skies as well. So that would be lovely. The highs and lows this time of year, according to the almanac, the high should be around 1 degree. The low temperature should be around -10. And of course, we're pushing lower than that right now. The high temperature on this day was back in 1969. It was 17 degrees, and the low was -31 back in 2006. The sun rose this morning at 8:04 a.m. and will be setting this afternoon at 4:36 p.m. only, giving us like 8.5 hours of sunlight, getting a little bit shorter every day. Lots of sunshine on the west coast expected today, high of 5 degrees in Victoria, 4 degrees in Vancouver. Chance of flurries up in Edmonton with a high of -6 and a high of -13 expected in Calgary, but they are expecting lots of sunshine over there. Over in Saskatoon, we're expecting some snow today with a high of -6, -5 expected in Regina, snow as well. Flurries expected today in Winnipeg with a high of -3. Toronto's going to see a lot of cloud coverage today with a high of 0 degrees. A mix of sun and cloud expected in Ottawa with a high of -3, and scattered clouds as well expected in Montreal today with a high of -1. Temperatures looking not too bad over there. Over in Atlantic Canada, a mix of sun and cloud today, but they are expecting a chance of flurries with a high of -1. Snow is expected in both Charlottetown and Halifax today. Highs of 2 degrees in both of those cities. Halifax could get a little bit of sleet there as well. And St. John's is expecting rain today. That's your forecast.
Here's your Bridge City News Community Calendar. Begin a wonderful Christmas tradition and come for a visit to the famous Christmas House at 1280 4th Avenue South, taking place November 30th and December 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. Walk through a Christmas wonderland while enjoying carolers, hot chocolate, and candy canes. Admission is by donation, with half of the proceeds going towards the YWCA Stockings of Hope campaign. For more information, call Kate at 403-329-4568. Martin Brothers Funeral Chapels invite you to attend their annual Holiday Remembrance Program on Tuesday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. at their Riverview Chapel. Holidays can be a difficult time for many who have lost a loved one, and this event gives an opportunity to honor those who have left us and support those who are still with us. For more information, call Martin Brothers at 403-328-2361. Make Christmas special for a child in need. Center Village Mall Toy Mountain is accepting donations of new unwrapped toys until December 20th during mall hours. All toys will be distributed through the joint efforts of the Christmas Hope campaign. For details, visit christmashope.ca. Plus, come for the arrival of the big guy himself, Santa Claus, at Center Village Mall on Saturday, December 7th at 11 a.m. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
planning to travel this holiday season? Well, today's daily life hack will give you an indication if the food in your freezer is still good when you return. Before leaving on your trip, place a coin on top of a frozen cup of water. When you return, check the coin. If the coin is in the ice, that means the freezer stopped working at some point and the food may have gone bad. An interesting little tidbit there. That's your daily life hack. Well, south of the border, Black Friday has kicked off the start of the holiday shopping season, but with fewer days, it's the shortest season since 2013. That's because U.S. Thanksgiving fell on the fourth Thursday in November, the latest possible date. Adobe Analytics predicts a loss of $1 billion in online revenue, but some people got a head start on the busy holiday shopping season, heading to their favorite stores while it was still Thanksgiving Day.
New fridge, new stove, new microwave, a new dishwasher, basically the whole kitchen.
What are we shopping for today? What do you have your eye on?
Oh, I'm planning to get a MacBook Air.
In all honesty, I mean, I did bring every card I could think of that I do own, but I'm hoping to keep it under like 1,000.
Why are you guys opting to be here as opposed to doing it all online?
Well, mostly because I can do this, and you can't really open a door on a fridge when you're looking at your phone. Also burn off a little calories in between dinner and then dessert later on, so for us it's really a win-win.
I brought the Apple Watch Series 3 for $129. I think I hit the jackpot, you know?
And if you're looking for something to do this weekend after scooping up some Black Friday deals, look no further than the silver screen. Here's Len Benning with another Movie Mill Minute.
With over $1 billion in box office sales, Joaquin Phoenix stars as Arthur Fleck in The Joker. By day, he's a clown for hire. By night, he's a wannabe stand-up comedian. Unfortunately, the joke is on him.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
Well, the weather has changed, and that means Christmas is around the corner. And here at the Movie Mill, we're here to help. For every $30 in gift cards, receive a $30 coupon package. Merry Christmas from us to you.
How do you tell the Holocaust story to the contemporary youth? Well, how about through a comic book? It sounds a bit crude, but it's working. A comic book about Anne Frank's life was published in Kiev, Ukraine, and it's getting across the story of the Holocaust to a younger generation.
The Holocaust story to the contemporary youth. A comic book about Anne Frank's life was published in Kiev.
It's a lot of pedagogical material in the form of a graphic novel, which is planned to bring to Ukraine schools.
The initiators of the publication comment, it's a modern format of presenting a difficult history. It has nothing to do with humour, but it should be understandable to school children who are the most demanding audience. Anne Frank's diary is one of the most famous artifacts of the Second World War. It was published in 70 languages. These are actual notes of a teenage girl who captured the episodes of her life during the Holocaust on the pages of her diary. Graphic pictures are complemented with archive photographs, which makes the history facts very tangible. The book was first published in the Netherlands. Only a few years later, it became possible to translate and publish the work in Ukraine.
One of the authors is Anne Frank's age, so the two parallel lifelines appear. It's very thought-provoking. You could have easily been born in the wrong place, in the wrong time, and you would have been out of luck indeed.
In Ukraine, this book was published by the Research Centre for East European Jewry and the German-Ukrainian project Learning to Remember, with the support of the German Federal Foreign Office. By the way, in the near future, the initiators plan to publish books about local Ukrainians who are called Anne Frank.
In Chernovtsi, there is already such a project which will show the life and the suffering of 5 kids who survived Shoah in the Bukovina. We are in contact already about people who are writing about the Anne Frank of Mykolaiv. We heard about the Anne Frank of Lviv, of course.
The book is already available at Knehania e-bookstores.
The firing of Don Cherry from Hockey Night in Canada has created a lot of talk around the water cooler. Some believe that it's a society that, as a society, we become too easily offended. National Sun columnist Anthony Fury gives us his thoughts on this topic, coming up right after the break with BCN's Paul Arthur.